Yeah, so let's just talk about just harvesting fiber. So really very similar to farming hay, having a hay business. The only difference would be in the cutting of the fiber itself. Your traditional harvesting equipment like your disc spine or your single bar sickle cutter won't work necessarily for most varieties, especially the varieties that grow as Jeff was alluding to, some of the wrapping. If the chunks of the fiber are too long, that creates a big issue in your baling. So there's a machine that one of our growers here locally picked up and was used to harvest almost 1,000 acres in our region here. And what it is a quad bar sickle cutter. So there's 4 different sickle cutters, and it goes through, and you can actually go through the field at about 11 miles per hour, and it chops that those chunks of fiber into, say, like 2-foot chunks, and then has no issues as long as your baler is a relatively newer style baler. Some of the older balers that we found that some of the guys were using just didn't have the horsepower to get through. It's very tough material. But yeah, some of these newer balers went through it like nothing. So that's it. And then I guess from that point forward, what we do is we have our growers bring us the bales here in Maple Park. We intake those bales, whether they're squares or rounds. We have markets for both. The squares, the large squares, 8-foot bales, those are the ones that can transport better. So we tend to prefer those a little better because we can fit a lot more poundage on a flatbed, a step deck flatbed truck or trailer. And yeah, but that would be, they come to here at Kifcure. We intake them. We'll be getting a truck scale here for the upcoming grow season, so we'll have truck scale there, just weigh in, weigh out, and then ultimately we take care of the transaction right there. Similarly to the grain side of things, we'll be installing a grain system at our facility to intake the grain, dry it, clean it, and store it, or dry it, clean it, and ship it out from our facility there. So that's other areas that we're looking on the harvesting side of helping this year.
And in regards to the retting period, so they harvest it, it's retting in the field. How long is that retting period? Does it matter if it's raining? What sort of things need to be considered when choosing a harvesting time?
And maybe Jeff can speak to this a little bit as well, but the way that we were kind of going with it is a retting time of 1 to 2 weeks, like you say, whether was there rain during that 2 weeks or not. If there was, the material might be a little more above the threshold of a 15% moisture, because we can't take material in that's less than 15%, that's more than 15% moisture. It has to be less than that. So it really depends on the weather, but what the retting does is it really just breaks down those fibers so that the machine, number one, it can be baled a little bit more efficiently, but number two, so that when it's going through the decortication machines, it separates a lot easier, because if you try to separate some fresh hemp stalk before, it's very hard to pull that vast outer fiber away from the hurd, because it's got moisture in it, as opposed to something that's retted or rotted in this field and decomposed a little bit, and then it separates a lot better. So yeah.
How do you test for moisture content?
There's standard moisture that hay farmers have them. I mean, with hay, again, what I've learned over the past year or so in farming some hay is that you have to be very dialed in on your moisture, because it could actually, number one, create mold, but number two, create a fire in your barn if it's not properly, if you have some of those mycotoxins.
Yeah, there's hay probes, and if you take a look online, it's called the microwave method, that you anyway, there's ways that you can test what the percent moisture is. But yeah, I was gonna just throw that in too for you, Jarett, that the percent moisture is pretty important, both for the grain and for fiber.
Yeah. And you said 13%.
I mean, 9% is dry for hemp. So I harvest at 13%. And it's pectin and lignin that hold those fibers together. And it's when the retting process is actually, if you can get it on the ground, it's microbes from the soil. That's their food of choice. And so that's what, gets into the stalk, eats the glue that holds the fibers together. And that's retting. So what they need is some moisture, of course, to live. So dew retting, we have winter retting. It's something that I think North America really needs to learn a lot on, particularly if we start to delve into the high quality bast fiber for textile. Currently, if it's just removing the bast fiber to get at the hurd and sell the hurd, it's maybe not as important. It is, but not as important, I would say. So it's an art in itself. Passed down. I mean, the Chinese know about it just by ringing the crop. Like a lot of hay farmers will know the moisture of their Timothy crop or alfalfa crop just by grabbing a handful and twisting it. And that's what we lack, that knowledge in North America on the hemp retting, which is, we just don't have those people telling us how to do it. So lots to learn there.